All right. Hello, everyone. Bree Sedano here, coming to you live on Facebook today to talk about why budgets fail and what to do when they do. And there's a better way. So, we're going to talk about all of that today. So, if this is your first time ever catching me live, please tell me hello in the comments so that way I know that you're here. If you are somebody who watches my lives all the time, please say hello also so that way I know that you're here. And if you are catching the replay, go ahead and just go ahead and hashtag replay so that way I know that you watched. And um, I'm just letting my list know that we are live. So we're just about to get into it. So why budgets fail and what to do about it. All right. So we're sending the email to the list. All right. Super excited to be here with you today. We will be there we go. All right. All right. So super excited. Oh, hello, Frank. Nice to see you. All right. So here's the thing about budgets is budgets are a plan for your money, right? And so most of the time when people make budgets, what ends up happening is they're like, oh, my money's situation is not right here. Something is wrong. So let me make a plan for this money so that way I can look at my priorities and decide where the money's going to go. And then they take out a sheet of paper and they write down how much money they make and what the cost of their bills are and where they want their money to go. Where that becomes an issue is that money is an inanimate object, right? Look, I have a stack of money right on my desk and it's just gonna sit here. If I put it here, it's wherever it goes is wherever it goes. I put it there. The money's gonna do what I make it do because the money is literally it's paper. It's just a piece of paper. So we often make plans for our money, but not for ourselves. And we are humans. We're human beings. We have thoughts, we have feelings, we have good days, we have bad days, we get hungry. And all of those things play into what you do with your money. So one of the biggest reasons, so there's a few reasons budgets fail. And I want to, and I don't, and I want to explain this to you so that way you can understand if you've made budgets and they failed, like why that disconnect has happened. So that way, the next time you're trying to make plans or you're doing something, you can see where your plan kind of fell short. I think it's super important to like explain this. All right. So one of the reasons that budgets fail is when we start with a blank sheet of paper and we say where we want our money to go. What that information doesn't include is where we want the money to come from. Now, if we're making a budget and we're starting over again, what that implies, right, is that our money has been going to places where we actually don't want it to go. So that means when we go to actually do this plan, that there are habits, that there are spendings that have to change. So just looking at saying, all right, well, I want this much money to go to my debt every month, or I want this much money to go to whatever every month is not enough. You have to say, all right, well, I'm spending my money on snacks. I'm going here and there 2 times a week, and I actually want to do, I want the money to be going toward my debt, right? But when we don't cognitively put that mental plan in place, then what we end up doing is we don't have like a real course of action to take. And so then that's one of the first reasons that budgets fail. So if you have a blank sheet budget, you're like, if you started with a blank sheet of paper and you don't see where the money's going to come from, what's going to have to change, you only have half of a plan. Like you don't have the what needs to stop happening, you just have the what you want to do. And that generally doesn't go well because what ends up happening is you have to, for your plan to work better, you kind of have to evaluate what you want to do different, what habits you want to change, what actions you want to be different. So that way you can evaluate, yes, it is more important to me to go on vacation than it is to buy takeout. So now you have like a mental bit of clarity. And you could be like, I'm feeling kind of hungry today. I could get takeout. And when you're like, yeah, but instead I'm going on vacation, that trade becomes very, very clear. So blank sheet budgets leave you without like a plan. They're only half of a plan, right? It's not what you're going to stop doing, it's just what you're going to start doing. And that creates a lot of tension within yourself when you go to execute the plan. So that's one of the first reasons budgets don't work. Another reason budgets don't work is that they're based on an assumption of willpower. Um, so if you're like, I'm just gonna muscle through this budget. I'm just gonna use my willpower to not go out to lunch. I'm just gonna use my willpower to do whatever else. Also, not gonna work. Willpower is finite. Willpower is a it's a manual override of your subconscious from your conscious mind. So it's like your conscious mind, which is a fraction of the size and the strength of your subconscious mind, is going to manually override. You cannot do this all day. You cannot do this all day. Your subconscious mind is significantly bigger, it is significantly stronger, and it is literally in control of your body, your subconscious mind. So when your conscious mind is like, we said no snacks, but your belly is growling, you're going to have a real hard time with that. So any plans based on willpower are basically doomed, doomed to fail when it comes to your money. Not immediately, but over the course of a few weeks, like for sure. One of the third reasons budgets really fail is that most of the time when people do their budgets, they create a plan, they create maybe a spreadsheet if they're super organized. This requires time and it requires mental energy. So if you have time and mental energy to spend, all right, cool, you may be able to keep up with it. If you are stretched for time, if you are stretched for energy, if you're somebody who's running kind of on a deficit for those things, you're gonna you're gonna find like that the plans are tough to stick with. And so what ends up happening when our budget, the thing about budgets also is that those numbers move all the time. So when we have our budgets on paper on a spreadsheet, well, when we actually need them is at the store. And a good household budget is going to have hundreds of line items. Like really, there's a lot to keep track of. You have your food, your household inventory, all of your bills, all of your kids' stuff. Like there's a ton. There's a ton, and our brains really are not meant for that kind of mental accounting. Your brain's mental accounting is the way that our brain does mental accounting is there's all sorts of like cognitive biases and just like little places where the accounting gets wonky. It's why if you win money on a lotto ticket, that money seems different than money in your bank account. That came from your job. One money may seem like real money, one money may seem like fake money, even though they're both equally real, right? So that's one of the things. If money comes in a way that you didn't expect it to, that money gets into a different category. So a lot of times with our mental accounting, we can jam up, like just make things a little bit more complicated as a way to like make it seem simpler in our brain. So these are all reasons why budgets oftentimes don't work. So the first course that I ever made is called The Invisible System to Stop Bleeding Money and Start Stacking Cash. And I will tell you that this system is the system that I used or that I use, that I invented, that I came up with to manage my own money. And I still actually sometimes I use it, right? And actually I'm just about to revamp my business's invisible system because the finances in the business have just changed drastically. So it's time for an update. So the thing about the invisible system is that I kind of came up with this when I got married young, and there were years where we did not make enough money, or we made too much money to get any sort of help, right? Like there was no government assistance, right? We were making like $40,000 a year between the two of us in Connecticut with a mortgage and a kid in preschool. And so this is, my daughter's 16 now. So this is like, 15, 16 years ago. And we did not make enough money to make any mistakes. And we had two people in our 20s running money off of the same bank account. And our accounts were always overdrawn. There were always problems with our money. And I would make these budgets, and I would make them, and I would make them over again, and I would look at them, because this was like a really big thorn in my side. Like, this was a really big problem for me. And so what I started to do was I started to look at the money as in purposes rather than line items. So we had our bills account. We had money that we needed to save every month for things like heating oil and car repairs and stuff like that. Definitely was coming. We had important things like, like for us at that time was like little weekend getaways, like going to the Cape for a weekend, right? And then we had day-to-day spending, like our groceries and our gasoline. And so what would happen was that all of the money would go into one checking account. And before the bills came out, is it would look like I'd have money. It would look like there was money there. And then we would, we were not buying anything crazy. We weren't, we were not buying anything wild. But what would happen is the money would all be gone. And so then by the time the bills came out, our bank account would be like, and there'd be no money left to save, and there'd be no extra money for any debt that we had. And it wasn't working. And because there were two of us, the numbers were always moving, right? And so we had two people on one debit card, and it would just make it such a mess, and it made the whole situation so painful. And I would be mad at my husband a lot. I'd be like, I told you not to use the debit card, and like we would have so much marital communication around money that was really unpleasant. Let me know if this has ever happened to you. I see that there's some of you live. So if this has ever been a thing for you, let me know in the comments. And so I revamped our system. So I started putting money aside for bills. And so I knew how much money our bills were every month. And so when the bills would come in, they would go right back out. And I started setting money aside. I would look and I'd be like, all right, this is how much we need for heating oil. And this is how much we need for car repairs. And this is how many oil changes. And, when we do like the kids' birthday parties or holidays or things like that. So I started to have money set aside for those things. So those things, because those were always the things that like I knew were coming, but when I didn't have my money stuff together, those were the things that would trip me up. It was like back to school, holidays, birthdays, like that was the place where there would be like pinchy parts. At this point in time, we didn't have much money for important things, but like important things, and then our pocket money. So the way that it worked is we would buy the groceries, and then each of us would get like $50 a week for things that we wanted to buy. My husband was a medic at the time, so he would buy coffee and like Gatorade. And I worked at a Boys and Girls Club at this time, so I didn't really need to spend very much money. So I would buy myself like a sweater, a pair of shoes here and there. And that is kind of how the invisible system was born. And what I found over time working with clients is I started when I first started working with clients on their finances, I made my system up. So I didn't think that it was awesome. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you budgets. Budgets are like the thing. And I was working with my clients. People were coming to see me for their investments, and their cash flow was always an issue. They wouldn't have money for investments. So I would give them these budgets. And I mean, we're talking sexy budgets. We're talking like spreadsheets. Like, yeah. Like, I know. I just made a weird, sexy face talking about spreadsheets, and that is weird. And but listen, I have the nerdiest heart that ever existed. So sexy spreadsheets actually make my nerdy little heart beat faster. And the clients would like not do them. I would make these gorgeous budgets, and then they would come back and see me and be like, tell me about your budget. I'd be like, I didn't do it. What do you mean? It's so nice. They'd be like, yeah, we didn't, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't stick to it. All right, cool. So I started giving my clients my system. And when I first started doing a lot of cash flow coaching, like when Sheep to Shark first opened, I was teaching all of my clients the invisible system. And the reason that the invisible system works so well is that when you're looking at your budget on a month-to-month basis, it just creates a lot of work. So we start looking at our budget on an annual basis, right? And so we look at our bills, and our bills for most people, the bills are very consistent. Then we start looking at what I call working capital. So working capital is your irregular bills. It's your foreseeable disasters. It's your family obligations, and it's the non-monthly self-care that you do, right? So when we start looking at that on an annual basis, you can start to see how much money you need to save every month to have money for heating oil and car repairs and holidays and summer clothes and massages every now and then. And then we start looking at like the priorities, the important things, right? Because when we're looking at our bills and our working capital, they're basically just things that we need. They're status quo living, right? Then we start looking at like, vacations or kitchen upgrades or, stuff for the kids or whatever else. And then we start looking at our pocket money. And so it's our gasoline, our groceries, the money that we pay the piano teacher with for, or, whatever else. And some adult autonomous spending money. And I started giving these plans to my clients. We would run the numbers. Why the invisible system works so much better is that it is because you've already set your priorities for 3 of those 4 types of money. Oh, I forgot to say too, and we set money aside for retirement or whatever investment. So that's the first place the money goes, actually. So the first place the money goes is to money that's going to work for you. For some of us, it's real estate investments. For some of us, it's our 401k. For some of us, it's our own retirement, especially if we have our own business. But it's money that's not for a rainy day. It's money that's going to be our employee. And we want to very clearly differentiate the difference between working capital and pay yourself first. So you're going to pay yourself first. That money is going to work for you. Working capital is that money is going to save your butt. They're 2 different things. They're 2 different things. So planting, preparing, pleasure, 3 types of savings, 2 types of spending. So bills runs on like a monthly cycle. Your day-to-day spending money, that money runs through quicker. And one of the things too that I teach in the invisible system is that money's got different speeds, right? So like our bills account kind of runs like a moon cycle, right? Every 30 days, there's going to be money in, money out, money in, money out. Your working capital kind of runs like more on an annual cycle, more like seasons, right? Like, so the money is going to go in all the time, and then there's going to be seasons where there's big outflows, and then the money goes in all the time, and then there'll be outflows. But there'll be some weeks where you don't spend any working capital, you just put money in, and then there'll be other weeks where you take a lot of working capital out and you put in the same amount. Important things kind of runs like one of those flowers that only buds like once a year. So there's a big slow buildup and a quick release. Your day-to-day spending money is going to run like the sun cycle, like a day-to-day. You put gas in your car and then it runs out. You buy groceries and then it runs out, and so you need a little bit of money for your day-to-day. And so what ends up happening when we put all of these different types of money into our one main checking account that runs real fast is all of our money goes. It's like trying to use a sieve as a bucket. It doesn't work. And so when I started to work with my clients, we started to separate our money by purpose rather than by line item. So we have the 3 different types of savings: planting, preparing, pleasure, and then we have bills and we have pocket money. So you start looking at your money because each one of those purposes has a different speed, right? And so then we started looking at automating, using automations to help support the habit changes required. Right? So a lot of times where our budgets fail is we don't have the habits in place. So when you set up the invisible system, you use some technology to help solidify some of these habits. You know why? Listen, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So when I was a stockbroker, I had two different clients who both had the same goal. They both came to see me in the same month. One was making like $40,000-$50,000 a year. One was making more than $100,000 a year. They both had the objective of setting money aside for their kids' education. The person making $40,000 set up $25 a week for each of her kids to go automatically into the account. The person with the $100,000 said, "I'll write you the checks," and didn't want to set up the automatic withdrawal. So at the end of the year, the person who was saving $25 a week, so that's $100 a month for each of her kids, so 50, I don't know, whatever. She had that much money, whatever the math works out to, in that account after a year. The person who said that they would write the checks had like $200 in their accounts, even though they were making twice as much money. Why? It's because of the automation. So we want to use the technology that's available to back us up on the good habits that we want. And we want some of our habits to be manual. So that's one of the things that I teach in the invisible system. And so the reason that you want a system the reason that we want to have systems instead of just a plan is that systems are for implementation. Planning happens before implementation, right? So when we try to implement off of a plan, that's not a system. It leaves so much undone. And so that's generally why it doesn't work. So So when I started giving clients this invisible system, they started to have money. They started to have savings. They started to be able to cover emergencies. They started getting out of debt, and it works. And it works. You set it up and then it works. And then, once a year, whatever, you have to review it, or you get a big raise, you have to review it, or your money changes, you have to review it. But having your financial life set up as a system instead of just a plan makes everything work better. So anyways, I made it as a course a couple years ago, and this year and next month we're doing it live. Why? Why are we doing it live? Because sometimes people buy the course and then don't do it. So this time we're doing it live, so that way everybody who wants to come can come. They can get their questions answered. They'll tailor the system to them, and we will implement the system together. Even this year, even what we're doing with the invisible system is we're putting in accountability meetings, which is just like time set aside to do the work, right? Because the invisible system is not, when I teach this, learning it doesn't matter. Doing it is what matters. So a lot of times people, we like knowledge in our culture and society. We love to learn stuff. But in this particular case, learning is not the thing. It's the action, it's the implementation. So we are doing the invisible system live. It's open for sale right now. It starts next month. It's on early bird pricing. But in the invisible system, where we look at setting up the structures of this. Where this really helps is it helps you to have something. I'll look at, somebody says, that is what I need. Thank you. COVID derailed me this year as a teacher. I know this. Yeah, COVID was tough. Inflation is tough. Right? Like, inflation means that if you have an invisible system, it's probably time to look at it, right? Like, because we had numbers in for gasoline. Like, for example, like, I know that my number in my mind for gasoline is like $250 a month. That's not true anymore. Now it's closer to $400 a month, right? My numbers for groceries are different. My numbers are different, So the invisible system needs like a little tweak. So setting up this invisible system really helps to manage money because it's systemized, because there's technology supports. And the thing that's super cool once you have it set up is when you look at your bank balances, there's one account where all right, well, this is my pocket money. I have this much money to spend between now and the next time I get paid. What that does for you is you do not accidentally overspend. Listen, if you want to take money from your working capital to go out for margaritas, that money is available to you. You can put a transfer in, but you're not going to accidentally do it. Because that's the thing, is most of my clients are not irresponsible. They just don't mentally have good grasp on what's going on. So somebody's like, hey, you want to go out for margaritas? They check their bank account. They're like, I got money in there. And they're like, yeah. Then all the bills drop out. And then, they need an oil change. And now they're on their credit card. That's generally the way that it happens. So when we have everything set up in a way where you know that your bills are taken care of, and you know that you have savings, and you know that you're going on vacation and everything's in order, it makes it easy to make decisions in the day-to-day, because that's the place where we generally falter, is in the day-to-day. It's like those little spending habits that really add up, that cost us our vacations, or that cost us our kitchen upgrades, or that cost us credit card debt when we have to put new tires on the credit card. Like, that's one of the things. So I just wanted to come on. I wanted to teach this to you because as we're watching this inflation topic unfold, and we're seeing that people's money situations are really changing, setting up the invisible system is really something that helps people manage their money and in a way that they can really, really stick to it. So if you check in the description, all of the links to the products are there. So we're on early bird pricing for the Invisible System Live. So the Invisible System Live, so listen, the course, the Invisible System is already, you can buy it. It's $97. What we're doing right now, what's on early bird pricing, is we're doing it live. So the experience is you're going to get the content, and you'll get the content, you'll get the recordings, but what you're going to get in the live version is there's Q&A sessions with me, so that way when you go and you implement, if you need to tweak, you need to tailor, you need to make this, the system needs to fit your life. So we have a base system, but then you're going to have to tweak it for your exact life. If you own a business, you're going to have to tweak it. If your money comes in, I don't know, however it comes in, you may need to tweak the plan to fit perfectly to you. Perfectly. Your money system should be working perfectly for you. Perfectly for you. So that means you may need to tailor it. So you have me for the Q&As. We're going to do Q&As as we run the numbers, as we do this, as you implement, you have the resources, you have somebody to ask. And then also when we're doing this live, what we're also doing is my teammate Alyssa is going to run accountability meetings to just literally hold the space for you to get your work done. Because the thing about the invisible system that is so important that I want to stress to you, knowing this does nothing for you. It's doing it. It's the implementation. It's the action. Knowing the system does nothing for you. Doing the system does everything for you. So we're going to hold this space for you to get your work done. And I think that's a really big deal. It's super important. So the Invisible System Live right now is on early bird pricing. It's $249. The price on that, listen, I've had clients literally pay for furnaces with the money that they literally all sorts of what would have been emergencies. They just had the money for. They calm down. They feel less stressed. They feel more successful. I've had clients report back not fighting with their spouse about money after implementing the system. I've had clients save more money that they've ever had in their entire life on this system. I've had clients who had tried every single budget, read all the books, never worked, have something work on this exact system. This system works for real humans because it's designed for human beings. It's not designed for money. You're going to manage the money, but really it's for humans. So that's what we're doing. So we have it up. And listen, the Invisible System Live is included in Cash Confident. So Cash Confident is my year-long program. It includes all of my courses. It includes almost all of my live programs. There's new content and there's coaching sessions all the time, twice a month in Cash Confident. So Cash Confident is $99 a month. It's a year long. So if you've been watching me for a while and you want to do my work, you want to go through my courses, you want to do the live programs with me, we just are in right now. What's in and open is called 30 Days to Get a Raise. The Invisible System will do that next. And then after that, we're doing a brand new program called the Life of Abundance. So if you want to get in and we just started 30 Days to Get a Raise. So there's some catch up. So if you wanted to join Cash Confident, you to get access to that program that's currently open. And then the Invisible System Live opens up. And then the next program that's included in Cash Confident will start after the Invisible System, called the Life of Abundance. And there we're going to be working on abundance mindset, really letting go of that scarcity decision making. And that program is going to be amazing too. So if you're somebody who's like, I want to do all of this work, I want to get my money right, I want to whoop inflation's ass, I want more, I want success in my financial life, I want financial freedom, I want to become an investor, you probably want Cash Confident, the entire thing. But if you just want to do the one thing, just get started, just dabble in it, you could do it either way. So anyways, so the Invisible System Live is on for early bird pricing right now. Cash Confident is also open and available. So if you want to join that, if that's a better fit, and if you want to join that and get 30 days to get a raise, I would totally jump on it today since we're already 2 weeks into it. So right now you could do easy peasy catch up because there's not that much content to do. All right. So I love you. I appreciate you. If you have questions, please just ask in the comments and I will get back to you. Bye.